You know what? It's 8:30 somewhere. Actually, it's 8:31 here. I'm a little bit late. I was in the kitchen. I would say I was making coffee, but I was making a lemon zinger tea in my Let's Talk About Reaper cup, which is not in focus. I don't have autofocus. I'm just using a manual lens, and I've got it set to stay locked onto my face and whatnot. So, how is everyone doing this morning? Hopefully this tea will finish cooking soon. My apologies in advance for my voice. I still have a bit of congestion. I'm just getting over a sinus infection, and I am far from perfect. I'm supposed to be tracking vocals for the song I'll be working on today, but I'm not in any condition to do it proper justice. So I figure I will go back through the performance that Edward did for us last week on the live stream that went not that great. I had some latency. I know that there were some in the chat session that said that the latency was not really that bad, but as I watched back that live stream, Eddie's performance was about a second behind the actual audio, but it wasn't that way in real life. The problem was, normally when I'm streaming and I'm doing drum tracking, I'm only using PSP and Infinistrip because it's a zero latency plugin. I had a couple of instances of a tape saturation plugin from IK Multimedia that added quite a bit of latency, and it was just bothersome. So I took that stream down. I just didn't want it to seem like he couldn't play, because that's not the case. All that said, I will do my best to keep up with chat over here. I'm still trying to get this stuff together. I did try adding a stream overlay to the chat, which is not showing yet, but hopefully it'll show up in the next scene. Tried using stream elements. I used to have a plugin of some sort that would allow me to highlight a specific chat message and make it pop up kind of fancy on the screen, but I can't seem to figure out how to make that happen anymore. My issue with the chat is that the live stream replay is available immediately after the stream is over, but the live chat replay usually isn't available for like 24 hours, so it seems like I'm talking out loud to nobody. Hopefully this way people can read along with the chat before that chat is available. No, it'll make sense later. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Let's see here. And look at that, the chat was there just a second ago. There it goes. Now, if that chat is bothersome to anybody, like if it gets in the way, just let me know and I'll try to shift it. I think to get started, we'll go ahead and do a quick replay of the work that we've got so far. If I take a look at my drum track here, this is just the kicks at the moment, but I have got, let's see, there's 2 comps, and I've got 5 takes. Well, 5 and a partial take. And we've got the comp that I made in the live stream last time, and it sounds pretty good, but there are some spots that are not quite in time. My guitar on the left side is still a scratch track. I'll need to go back and re-record my guitars. The other guitar and the bass, those were recorded to a click, as were the drums, so I want to get the drums lined up as best as I can while still retaining that humanness to it. Eddie's style is quite good, and I'd like to preserve it, but I just want to tighten things up a bit since this is math rock, I guess, for lack of a better word. So with all that said, let's take a quick listen to what I've got so far, and then we'll get started with editing. I did add a few sound effects you might like. And let me know in the comments there if the volume is problematic for this, since I don't have much of a concept for what it sounds like from your side. Alright, so there you have it. That is the preview of our next track, lovingly entitled When Are We Leaving? If you missed the live stream, this is a song that's, I guess it's really about me and my social anxiety and how I don't really like to be in a crowd. I don't mind performing in front of a crowd, but can't stand to be in one. Uh-oh. Haircut. Better get on it, Will. Let me catch up in chat here real quick. I think I saw somebody mentioning the drums being tight. Yeah, the drums are pretty good. I think that they would have been better had I not had that blasted plugin turned on, and Eddie was second-guessing himself because of the latency. But all that said, everything sounds pretty good, but there's a few spots where it needs to be tightened up. And the problem with editing drums is once you fix one spot, you want to go and do all of it. So I figured I would just go through and see what we got. I've already made sure that things are lined up pretty well, at least well enough. I'm not hearing any type of issues with phasing or anything like that, so I think I will just go ahead and get started. I tend to focus on my kick and my snare top, and my apologies again for any nasal issues that may happen throughout this stream. Those of you who have looked at my drum editing and Reaper course, you already know about the slip editing methods that I use. At the risk of sounding like a product shill, if it's something that you're interested in learning more about, feel free to click the link in the description for the Drum Editing and Reaper course on ProMix Academy. If you got any questions, ask them in chat. I will answer everything that I can as best as I can remember, because so much of this stuff has become muscle memory that I may no longer be a good teacher of the topic. Essentially what I'm looking to do is I've already got my drum tracks grouped, and I do that by means of the grouping matrix. If I go to... let's see, Shift G. This red flag that's listed on all of my drum tracks here, it shows that I've got these marked for record arm, lead, and follow. So any of my drum tracks that I arm will arm all of the drum tracks. But subsequently, I've also got media/razor edit lead and follow checked. And that means that at a track level, instead of grouping the items like I did in the first revision of the Drum Editing and Reaper course, I've got I've got my drums grouped at the track level, so regardless of which take it is, whatever edit I make on one track affects all of them, so long as I've got the grouping turned on, which I do right now. And thank you for the support there, Batman. I'm curious, since you had the course before Reaper 7 came out, what is your opinion on the addendum that I threw in there after Reaper 7 came out to show the differences? I believe I actually put it on YouTube and just gave everybody a link to go see it, and you know, if you didn't have the course, it may not have made a lot of sense, but I hope that helped to make everything gel together and give you a few different options. Let's see, let's get started here. I guess I will start by making sure that this first snare hit is pretty much on point. Engage my slip editing mode and get going. So I'm just going to make a cut right here. I tend to ramble when I'm doing this, so I will try to glance over there from time to time and make sure that I'm keeping tabs on the chat session there. I like to go through a little bit at a time and then go back and spot check. And while I don't really want this to be 100% robotic, I know that this particular tune is kind of poppy, and with it being math rock, it being a little tight is kind of important. This first section, I hope I don't say a whole lot through this stream. This first section is much more of a pop feel, kind of like a pop R&B vibe until we hit the what I would call the chorus. I don't tend to write verse-chorus structure, so I have a hard time knowing what to call these sections of the song. So I just call this the poppy part. What I'm looking at down here is I'm wanting to make sure that some of those hat accents are on point as well. So while I'm focusing primarily on the kick and the snare, I want to make sure that some of these hat hits in between are solid as well. Hey, thanks, Tyler Meg. If I'm reading that right, I swear that screen is like way over there, and I'm having a hard time reading. Let me know again if this chat overlay on screen is in the way and I can move it. It looks like it's kind of covering a few things, but I'm trying to keep the action more in this central section and away from that. This is primarily for my own benefit, so I can go back and read the chat like much sooner than YouTube makes it available. This section right here, I'm kind of questioning, so I'm just going to focus on the kick and the snare there. Get that snare lined up. And as you can see, these movements that I'm making are very minor. It's like a matter of milliseconds. And I know that there's different scripts and things that you can do to do this automatically, but I guess for me, in some sort of way, it's therapeutic to do this. It's just something to do, and I prefer the sound of it when done manually. Now that snare hit right there is all kinds of off, so... And I'm resisting the urge to want to go back and just listen to all this right now, but I'm going to try to speed through this. If you trust, I know that we talk so much about mixing, you need to do it with your ears and not your eyes, but this is one of those things where once you get used to it, if you learn to trust what you're seeing, you can blow through and edit pretty quickly. But if you second guess yourself and keep going back and listening, it can take a while. Let's see how much further we got to go. We are almost through the intro. And I guess in some respects too, doing this by hand still leaves it in the realm of the artistic, to where you're not trusting a bot in 100% quantization to line up things for you. I tend to try to edit in broad strokes as best I can. There's a weird offset right there, so I'll have to listen to that and figure out what I want to take precedence. Now, in a case like this where you've got some things that are not lining up in the same spot, you do have an option to ungroup and move the one thing. Depending on what instrument piece it is, you may also need to move the rooms and the overheads to match, but a little bit of offset is not necessarily bad. I mean, we have to keep in mind these are humans playing these instruments, so I know that there are drummers out there that are dang near metronomes. Eddie is a really good drummer when it comes to what he would call meat and potatoes pocket style drumming. This style is very much new to him, and I don't know if this is exactly the right word, but I guess you could say I'm kind of teaching him to play this style, because it's much more like my style of playing. Basically, with this band, as well as the band that I had started once before, I essentially just put together a group of people to play stuff that I wrote, and I'm able to play all this stuff myself, but I can't play it all myself live, so I like to assemble a group and us work on playing this stuff. Now, I don't mean that to sound like I'm a dictator, because I most definitely welcome their input. Matter of fact, the input that the other guys have put into this with their different styles have really made things come alive. Like Eddie is more of a let's see, standard rock / pop / country / R&B drummer. A bass player, Jason, he plays more like pop rock and worship music, stuff like that. And David, the other guitarist, he's into things like Haken, I think the band is called. He's learned to like a lot of the stuff I'm into, like Tiny Moving Parts, and he's definitely a fan of Polyphia. All that said, I'm going to mute my mic here for a second, and let's take a listen to this so far and see how it sounded. All right, got a question with there. HC Nilsson. Yeah, the overheads and everything, these are all grouped together. So all of my drum tracks I'm editing in one shot. This red marker here along each of these tracks shows that they're all in the same group, and that group is armed for media and Razor Edit. I can't think of what it's called. Let me pull it up so I can call it correctly. Just a sec. Media / Razor Edit Lead and Follow. So all of these tracks are grouped in that same method or manner, and as such, whatever I do to one affects all of them, whether that be, like if I take this crossfade right here and move it, you'll see it's moving on all the tracks that are associated with the drums. I did hear one thing that was like a cymbal choke that I think that I needed to maybe shift a crossfade on, so let me listen to that again. right there. Okay, I think I see what happened there. I just missed a spot. I was looking at that as I was editing and thinking something was wrong, but I couldn't quite understand what I was looking at. So what had happened there was I had some of this section on the wrong side of the crossfade, so the actual attack of that was chopped off. Let's listen one more time and make sure that that feels good. And that's sounding pretty good to me. Everything is sounding very much natural. I mean, the movements that I made were very minor. So I did not hear any artifacts. Now, later on, I may go through with a bit of a finer approach and just make 100% sure. But my objective for right this second is just to get things pretty much in line at a base level. So moving on to this first verse part. Now, something of interest here is the timing. Depending on how you count this, I ended up mapping it out in Reaper as several measures of 3/4 with like a measure of 2/4 at the end of each phrase. So let's take a listen to this section before, and then we'll go through and edit. Alright, so let's go and get started on this first part here. This is going to be a fun one to do because of the time sig. Let's see here. I guess I'll start, whoops, messed up already. I'll start by just getting that first kick transient on point. Wow, I'm looking at this now thinking this is already kind of confusing to me. Maybe I need 16ths. Yep, I think those changing my grid to 16ths I think will help me here. I'm going to make a couple of choices and just see what it does, because the maybe it's the head cold, but the math ain't mathing in my head right now. That first one should be good, so let me test that and make sure that my theory is right. Yep, that'll do. This is probably a section that I may end up spot checking as I go. That's sounding pretty good. His 16ths there were feeling pretty good. I don't think that I'm going to totally edit this section out, but I want to find where the prominent hit needs to be and maybe do a slight shift there. Okay, so that prominent hit needs to be there. I guess I'll go ahead and start a split here and start shifting and see if I can get this in a larger group. And I'm inadvertently doing almost what I said I wouldn't. I didn't chop every one of them, but like I said, I want to make sure that those primary accents are on beat. Because if it's a little bit off time, it's fine, because once again, it preserves the human element. But some of these prominent accents, I definitely want to get on the right part. That's sounding pretty good there. I'm going to go ahead and expand my toms a bit, because the rest of this fill going out is pretty important. I think that it will end up making this kick transient line up if I make a split here and get these toms in place. That I cannot see now. There we go. Yep, that lined up. That ended up lining up that kick transient, so let's go back and preview. I think we've got one tom hit here that is a bit late, and it's causing an issue to my ear. That sounds pretty good there. And you may notice that I'm not listening to this with a metronome on. In a lot of cases I do, but I'm kind of just trusting my eyes at the moment and listening to it in context of the music. Because ultimately, if it's on the grid but it's off with everything else, I don't want to create a whole bunch of more editing for everything else. I'm just trying to tighten this up just a little bit. So. You guys are pretty quiet in chat there, which is okay. I just keep glancing over to make sure I'm not missing anything there. Yeah, the toms, I was really pleased with how well those came out. I mean, it's just the natural sound of my toms, really. I do have some processing on them, needless to say. What I'm doing on my toms is I've got PSP and Infinistrip, and I am gating them because I do have a lot of resonance, particularly in my first tom. Like if I solo my first rack tom, well, my only rack tom, because I've got a rack and 2 floors, and if I take this gate off, let's go back to the beginning of this section, you'll hear it firing every time the kick hits. Yeah, so I've got that gated and then compressed, so much nicer like that. And maybe it was my second tom. Let me try that. One of them had a ton of resonance in it every time the kick hit. Yep, it's the floor tom, the 14-inch. So here it is without the gate. And then gated, of course, it's much better. Although I don't want it completely gated. There we go. And I swear, I talk about this like every time I stream, but I cannot recommend PSP Infinistrip enough. It's 0 latency. That means a lot if you're into live streaming, because you can have whatever you want on whatever channel with no delay between your video and your audio. I'm going to take a sip of this tea real quick. Let's see, what was I doing? Let's check this section, make sure it's good. Like I said, I'll probably spot check this as I go because of the time signature. I want to make sure I'm not causing too much trouble downstream. Okay, that's sounding pretty good. This may sound a little bit weird. Well, it sounds weird to me because this is probably the first time ever and the song's not completely mixed yet, but what I've done so far is mixed. Let me see if I can explain this better. My English is leaving me. My drums bus, I've got that set to the stereo pan mode, and I have it at minus 90% width. So even though I tend to mix my drums to drummer's perspective, I inverted the drums bus so it's from audience perspective, and that makes my brain hurt because it sounds wrong to me as a drummer. This section's looking not too bad. We have made another Infinistrip fan. This is not sponsored by them. I just really like it. I bought it on sale many moons ago, and I didn't like it that much at first, but in retrospect, I think it's because I didn't really understand how to use it. But I have spent a lot of time with it, and it's like my go-to on everything. I'm a little bit disturbed with what I'm seeing here, so I'm probably going to go back and take another listen here in a second. I'll go ahead and get what looks right, and then we'll go back and check it. Right here's a bit weird. So that snare hit there is going to be a little bit out of time, but in this case, I mean, this is not a metal production, so I'm not looking at 100% on the grid. That little bit of offset is fine. Once again, I'm focusing on these primary accents, and in this fill going out, I do want to try to focus on making sure that these tom hits look good, because the way that they fall into place will greatly affect the next section. I better go back and check that spot, because I don't know what's happening there. Okay, looks like I got lucky. See, that sounds good without editing. This is such minor things that I'm doing. But since I'm here, go ahead and line that up just a touch. Once we get into some of the parts where all the strings and the drums are accenting at the same time, this will become a lot more important. Really, there was only one part that I can think of that, like in listening to the playback, was like, yeah, I definitely need to edit that part. And that's like towards the end of the song. But I figured I would still, like I said, go ahead and do this. Yeah, for no other reason than just to stay in practice. Now these are a little bit hard, like these flams. I have trouble figuring out how to place them exactly, so I just have to listen back to it. Because I mean, they can sound good a little bit early because of, well, I guess just the nature of how that articulation is played anyway. Okay, that verse is done, so let's go back. Well, this is actually a chorus, but whatever. Okay, that's sounding good. This next section, I had him to focus on the ride bell, so I want to make sure that those ride hits are very much on point. Ooh, something looks weird here. Okay, there we go. And I'm hoping to get some comments that, wow, that ride bell sounds fantastic, because it's a custom build that I had made to my specifications. And most of the symbols on my kit are special orders that I had made. Let's go back and hear that. Right, that little bit of push-pull and a slight a bit of unpredictability. Really, a lot of the... I'll go into writing theory here for a little bit, but in a lot of cases, when I'm writing something, excuse me, I want to, like, we will sit and analyze every little element because we want to make sure that every part of the song, every instrument, every note has purpose, and all of those notes must work together to achieve the desired outcome. And in this particular song, which will make more sense once the lyrics are in place, it's kind of designed to create a feeling of anxiety and unease, much like what I would be experiencing in the middle of a crowd. It's definitely much more prominent with the lyrics going along with it. I would sing for you now, but I would sound like a frog. It's weird that people say that. Like, do we really know what a frog sounds like? I guess we're thinking about Kermit. Let's go back and review this. Okay, that section sounded good. And you may notice I'm not being too incredibly nitpicky. If you've followed any of my videos on this topic before, in the past I would zoom in really, really close and be almost anal about making sure that things were spot on. But to Batman's point, that little bit of push and pull, I mean, I say the same thing every time. I'm wanting to tighten things up a bit, but not make it robotic. And the washing machine is done. I don't know if any of you guys have a Samsung washing machine, but they play an annoying song when the wash cycle is finished, and you cannot turn it off. It's a very long song. It's like they didn't have to go that hard, but they did. Almost at the end of this section. as noted by the one measure of 2/4. All right, let's go back to that previous section and preview it. It's not easy being green. I love that tom hit there at the end. That sounds massive. I think this is the last one before the pre-chorus. We're doing pretty good on pacing here. Not sure what's going on with the kicks there. I'm having a hard time seeing the transients for them. You can tell I did not have my mic very hot on the kick. But it's good enough. It's definitely audible. If you're not familiar with what I'm doing here, as I'm moving this transient, I noticed that there was some of the, oh, sorry, not transient, this crossfade. I noticed that some of this transient was in there, so I just wanted to shift the crossfade to essentially extend more of the left edge of this part of the media item to make sure that I didn't have a double trigger. Yeah, it's doing the whole drum recording and editing thing is a bit of an addiction, Batman. I love doing it. I mean, anytime I get a chance to record some live drums, I am on it. And I feel like I've definitely gotten better, particularly with my mic placement. I was really pleased with the mic placement on this, on the snare, because one of the most difficult things to do is to get a clean snare because of the proximity to the hat. Now, this is far from perfect, mind you. But let's take a quick listen to that section again and listen to the snare top, which I've currently got gated, so I can turn off this gate and see what we got. Which I guess this would probably make more sense to turn off the plugin and hear how it sounds naturally. And actually, the beginning may be a bit more of an indicator, just because the beginning has much more hat. So yeah, you can hear that hat, but the snare is so much louder, which made it easy to gate out. So let's hit this next section. Turn the plugin on here. This last section buttoned up here. These tom hits are ever so slightly out of place. Hey Steve, welcome. Yeah, Batman, some of my previous recordings, the bleed is horrible to the point to where I ended up having to buy Wilkinson debleeder to fix. If you go on YouTube and look up the Dad Rock project, give me just a second, let me just pull it over here. Boop. Minerva, this is a version of Minerva from the Deftones that a friend and I did, and that was my first use of Wilkinson debleeder, and you can still hear how bad that hat is in the snare mic, even with that reducing it significantly. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you can fix with plugins, but you get to a point to where you just want to learn to fix it at the source, because it makes your job easier downstream. It's a lot of trial and error, but I really think that we're going to get to a point to where drummers will start seeking out people who can just record them. It seems to be a dying art. I know that everything is going to sample replacement and AI tools, and I get it, because particularly if you're doing this and making a living doing it, time is money, and if you can make more in less time, it's a bit of a win-win. But the thing is, drummers take a lot of time curating the equipment that they buy because they want certain sounds. And I understand, like, from a big production standpoint, you just go with whatever sounds good. But I guess for me as a drummer, I would want my kit to be what's being heard and not some other kit that was played by some other person. Now, I understand that samples have their place. I'm not dead set against it. But at the same time, the people who are, I've said it so many times, the people who are selling samples just learned how to record drums properly. Let's preview what we've got up to the pre-chorus and see how we're sounding. And I hate when I accidentally do that. Let me get this fixed because that's going to bother me. Okay, so back to the front. Dang, that sounds good. Now, you really can't tell that this was edited, hopefully. I mean, it wasn't bad before, but that slight bit of nudging, it does make a significant difference to my ear, but at the same time, not a difference that's noticeable in a bad way, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and hit this pre-chorus, which this should be relatively tight. I think he had some tom hits that were a little bit lazy here that will be important to fix. This is a part where I'm singing all soulful, like R&B style, so I gotta make sure that the groove is here before we get into the borderline screaming section. Gonna need to see these toms a bit better. Kinda need to see those hats too, because he's got a nice hat groove going on here, but I trust that it's going to stay kind of in time. I can see a little bit of those hat hits here in the snare mic, so I can use that as a bit of a guide. I'm just going to guess at this. I guess in some respects this is about like matrix code. You get to a point to where you can just kind of figure it out. There's a hat hit right there that is late. I probably should have just left that one alone. I think I'll undo that. It's not enough to matter. We got some definite delays going on here. So tell me about this rehearsal space. Is it actually just like a... Did you do it like people do here and just rent a storage facility that will let you do stuff there? Or did you find a place that's actually like a music something or other? I don't know that there are rehearsal spaces that you can rent here. I've let some people use my place to rehearse, like when I had a friend whose band was passing through town. Whoops. Got to be really careful to do that drag on the bottom half, otherwise you'll end up moving the media item. And I want to slip and not move the actual item. Kenny did a video, I think last night, about like bottom half of media items. I need to try to watch that and see if there's some stuff that I may not know about. there's a lot of different options and things that you can change for how your mouse behaves on your media items based on whether it's the top or the bottom, or the edge, and some other parameters too. As I guess we're always looking for workflow enhancements. I like to think that what I'm doing is fairly efficient, but at the same time, I'm amazed at what some of you guys come up with, particularly those of you with, well, looking at some of the stuff that Arya used to show on his channel, and some of the things that Wanchus is showing on his now, just stuff that I would never think of. And Alejandro, with the way that he records guitar, is insane. Oh, Alejandro is a Reaper Tips, if you are unaware. So I love looking at a lot of the other guys' videos because, I mean, I learned just as much watching them. I think we're nearing the end of this section. And I really have not been paying attention, so I'm curious to go back and see if I got those tom hits fixed that I was thinking about. Yeah, some of the stuff that Arya did with the smart markers was really cool. Kind of hope to see him come back at some point. I know that he's been busy with the new job and everything, and I mean, unless your last name is Joya, YouTube doesn't really pay that well. It's just something that I do just because I enjoy it. I'm definitely not making a fortune at this. Speaking of which, feel free to throw a bone at the buy me a coffee or super thanks if you want. But if you don't, that's okay too. I am totally fine with just having some company while doing this stuff. Lockout Studios. Yeah, I think we've got a couple of studios here. There's Jackson Records, and gosh, there's one other place. I don't remember what it's called, but Jackson Records is a place here that has it's like an all analog workflow for the most part, and they have a bit of a vintage sound for most of what comes out of there. We've got another place that has a heavy focus on trop rock, which I find interesting. Like, they've got a lot of stuff charted in the trop rock circuit. And then we've got, of course, a handful of folks like myself that have stuff going on in their homes. But I think I may be the only one that actually tracks live drum. Well, no, I take that back. Well, as far as the smaller places, the only one that tracks live drums, I should say. I want to go back and check this section now and make sure that I'm going into the chorus strong, since I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing here. So let's check out this a little bit of this part going into the pre-chorus. That sounded pretty good to me there. I want to go back and well, I'll check it later. Let's go ahead and hit this next section. That first kick transient sounds to be pretty good to me. And that snare is off. This part will need to be relatively tight. And it's looking pretty good so far, except for that snare hit is off. Miss Jackson. Sorry. Hey, look at the time. My firstborn should be coming for a visit soon. May have to have her come in here and say hello. She's coming to cut my wife's hair. Does that say Demon Sloth? What is up, Rent? Let me make sure I say that right. Runajoy? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but good morning. Thanks for joining us. What have I got going on here? That looks like that's pretty good. Let me go back and preview what we've got so far for this section. Actually, I want to hear the part before that again just because I like it. Okay, that sounded pretty good. So, Will, how did those mics work out? I mean, I know they were dirt cheap. And I guess I wonder how they work out. I mean, in my experience, a lot of mics, as long as they are not hot garbage, they're usable and may just need more or less EQ than another more expensive variant. We have Flyboy Jason Gilman in the house. Now it's a party. Demon Sloth, that is awesome. And the work that you're doing with your son is amazing. I think it's great to be able to have that kind of a bond with your kid, for one. And, you know, just to have something in common to that degree that you can both sink your time and money into as well. My son is a bit of a composer. He goes by the name Radiark on YouTube. Let me give him a quick bit of self-promotion here. I didn't teach him all that well because he uses LMMS for his production, but if you get bored, check him out, and I'm kind of curious to maybe have him on the show sometime and talk about his production methods. He does painstakingly crafts this stuff in MIDI, and it's amazing the stuff that he makes. Yeah, he went the MIDI route, and I never quite grasped MIDI well enough to do much more with it other than throw in a couple of sound effects here or there. But if you give me a microphone and some guitars or drums, I do alright. I feel like I'm rushing through this because I really want to get to the next section. No, he uses LMMS. It's a Linux Multimedia Studio. I think he may still be running either Linux Mint or Ubuntu. Which LMMS is I've been told it's very similar to FL Studio in the way that it functions. And since he does a 100% MIDI workflow, I think that it just works better for him. I tried to convert him to Reaper, but that muscle memory, you know, at the end of the day, you use whatever's comfortable. Man, I cannot wait to get over this cold so I can record these dang vocals. I'm ready to get this song cranked out. Oh, old school. So, Jason, I'm curious, what's your take? Debian or Debian? I think he may have changed his YouTube channel to Learning Reaper, but he used to go by x.e.l.o. He does a lot of stuff with MIDI and beat making, but his channel is definitely a good one to check out if you're into MIDI. Just kind of really cool, a lot of the stuff that he does with it. I figure one day I will sit down and learn more with MIDI. I know I've talked about it a billion times. I actually had a MIDI keyboard sitting up here for a short while. I bought one from the local music store and ended up taking it back because I'm like, nah. Yeah, I think that the pronunciation, if I recall, from the developer, I think that it's supposed to be Debian and named after like his wife Debbie or something like that. I could be totally wrong about that. I don't think I'm making it up, but I'm also on medicine. This is going to be fun when I get to the part with the triplets. That's looking pretty good right there. I don't know what's happening here. I need to change the color of my ruler up here because I'm having a hard time seeing those numbers. So I'm going to go to, I think it's the theme tweak, maybe? Look for the ruler. No, what is this called up top? It's not the ruler. Well, let's try the finder and see what this is called. If somebody can give me what the word is for this part up here. I was thinking it was a ruler, but I need to change my colors up there so I can see it. Timeline, maybe? Let's try timeline. I'll change this and... Okay, foreground and secondary markings. Yeah, this should be it. So let's see if this does it. Yep. There, that's much better. I can see that now. I was really struggling to see my markers up here. And there's Bell Dog, so I guess my daughter is here now. Belle feels it's her duty to alert us of anything going on outside, whether it concerns us or not. I think we're nearing the end of this section. Let's see how much further we got to go. Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, I've ended up just kind of sticking with the Reaper 7 default theme. I've got a handful of themes installed on here. I tried this 80% gray, which this, I mean, I've got old eyes, so this is a problem for me. I kind of like the overall aesthetic of this, but it was just too small for me, and I think that I end up just settling on something based on what I can see. I'm trying the Flat Madness 4 beta at the moment, and I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, it's definitely visible. I used LCS Flat 7 for a pretty good while. That's based off of Reaper 7, and I do like it. I did use, excuse me, Peace for a while as well. I tend to keep just coming back to the default one because it just works. And there's Reaper tips, and this works fine too. I do like the Reaper tips theme. I did end up doing the variant where it doesn't show the track control panel, but I think that I ended up settling on the default 7 theme with the pre-released theme adjuster, which gives you a whole lot of flexibility. Let me get this moved over a bit so it's not sitting over the chat window there. It gives you a whole lot of flexibility for things that you may want to change on your own. Like you can even drag and drop different elements inside of the the track panel and the mix controls, and it works well. Also, I can guarantee that everybody who watches my videos at least has access to the default theme, so there's no question about where things are. The theme adjuster still is not finished yet, so if you did want to add this, let me see if I can find that for you real quick. What am I looking for? Forum. And it's in the pre-release section that we don't talk about. So there is the theme adjuster with some very explicit directions. Excuse me. I will not post a link to this because we don't talk about the pre-release section, but if you do decide to go and look this up on yourself, please be sure to read White Tie's instructions before whining or complaining that something doesn't work when everything that does or doesn't work is pretty clearly explained in the instructions. But you can do some pretty cool stuff with the new theme adjuster script, and I'm looking forward to that getting finished. Even in its pre-release state, it is quite powerful. I know one of the things that people complained about with the default Reaper 7 theme is the lack of the meters, meter value showing in the mixer, and you'll see here in my mixer controls, there's an option here. If the track is unselected, I can basically choose whether my meter values show based on the different states of the track, and I like for mine to show at all times, so I've got that turned on. That was one of the first things that I turned on. And they also have this new strip layout. If you make your track width narrow, it'll switch to this strip type of layout. But since I have trouble seeing, I'm totally fine with the wide tracks. I do like that you can control the width of your tracks, though. It's in here somewhere. There we go, mix control panel. You can give it a different width, whether it's selected or unselected or armed as well. So a lot of flexibility in what you can do with the theme using that theme adjuster that we don't talk about. Let's get this section finished up here and then spot check, because this is a long time to go without actually playing any music for you. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know that sometimes these drum editing streams can be a little bit boring because it's me trying to make up some kind of banter while working instead of playing a lot of music. You know, historically I've worked with, let's see, find the right button. Historically I've worked in this view with the mixer docked, but I've gotten to where I'd go this route instead with a floating one and just hide it completely. I think it helps to resist the temptation to mess with stuff when you're supposed to be focused on something else. So like I might be messing with mixing while I should be drum editing. Now, it looks like I may have chopped that off on purpose, so I'm kind of wanting to hear this section real quick. Nope. That was just a bad crossfade placement. And it appears that I'm at the end of this section based on what I heard there, so I just need to get this part done. Then we'll get into the triplets. We do not talk about Fight Club. That is such a good movie. I'm going to have a good time with the fill at the end of this section. Which looks to be right there. I kind of want to hear how that sounds naturally, so let's go ahead and listen to this section and see how it gets into the next part. I think I may have heard something there. Let me go back. I think it's just that flam. Just the way it is. Okay. Hey, Dalton. Dalton, for those of you who don't know, is a freaking phenomenal guitarist. He was the lead guitarist in the cover band that I was in called A Little Hostile, but he is now shredding with a new group called, well, they're not new, but he's new to them, called After Eden. If you're into, and Dalton, correct me if I say this wrong, but kind of like 80s style, 80s to 90s glam hair metal rock something. I don't know what to call them, but they're pretty good, and you should check them out. Let's see what we got here. That fill actually sounded pretty good. I think I just want to go in here and make sure that these kicks are on point and let the other hits fall where they may. All right, let's see how that feels. Alright, so now I get to edit this part. This will be fun. I think the important part will be getting these kicks in place. And the first snare, I'll probably end up going back and switching to a triplet grid to cross-check this after getting the prominent hits in place. Let's see. Right there, those tom hits are sounding kind of wonky to my ear, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to a triplet grid and see if we can figure this out. I can't read. Where are we? I was looking at my grid there, and I think I've got them out of order. Yep, sounds like the grandbaby is not happy in there. Okay, and that's what was making my ears bleed right there, is those tom hits that were way off. So let's try that. This part I'll probably need to check it as I go, just because of the triplet grid versus my eyes. That sounds really good there. That one was dang near spot on. Just a bunch of rule breakers here. Yeah, most of these are on there pretty good. Got some minor nudges to be done here. And I got to be really careful on the last one once we straighten up and come out of the triplet fill. Feel, not fill. Yeah, that's all sounding and feeling pretty good there. Are we fighting about Talking Club? This is looking pretty good. Right here is not, for sure. But it wasn't terrible. Okay, that's the part where we straighten up, so I need to go back to my straight 16th grid to figure out what the heck's happening here. Alright, let's try that out. We'll do a little bit of a lead up into it. I think I want to bring up the volume of the crowd there. So what are you guys thinking so far? Let's go back to the beginning and listen up into this midsection. Good morning, Del Taco. Yes, this is an original. It's one that I wrote called When Are We Leaving, and it will be released under the name Midlife Riot whenever I get over getting sick and can get these vocals tracked. If you guys are not familiar, Midlife Riot is just my new music venture, and if you get bored, I invite you. Actually, I'll post this in the chat there, but check out Blue Drift. It's the first track that I released under that name. And yeah, that's us. This is, I'll play just so I can take a break and drink some of my tea. Here's a clip from our last rehearsal of the song that I'm editing right now. Oh, and as I always say on this, you won't be able to hear the vocals because we have in-ears, so there's no audible vocals in the room. You may hear a little bit towards the end when I start screaming like an idiot. I love how at the end we all just said nothing. We're just there. Alright, let's see. When we last left our heroes, we were getting into that bridge. Let's see what we got. Alright, let's start cleaning again. Something looks weird. Oh, that's the... I was like, what is that faint outline there? That's from the fade in. Originally there was more drum stuff in there, but I liked having all of that quiet there with just the guitar and the quiet... What's the word? The crowd. That's the word I'm looking for. Shouldn't be a whole heck of a lot to do here. I see we've got some ghost notes in here on the snare. Dalton, yeah, we need to get you and David together to have a shred competition. I think he would be a worthy opponent. Not sure what's happening there. I need to listen real quick. Okay, there. I love these little hat grooves that he's got going on in here. I want to make sure to keep this pretty tight. Hat stuff there. Man, those toms sound so freaking massive right there. Okay, right there we got those tom fills I'll need to focus on just a bit. Did I break something just then? Okay, we got some oddities right here. Something is wrong here, but I can't quite put my finger on it. May just take a little trial and error. I think maybe all this stuff is like really late. Yeah, I'm gonna try moving all this back like an eighth note. I think I may have accidentally shifted some things without realizing it. Yep, that is exactly what happened. But now we know where we are and we can fix it. I probably should have been working with an eighth note grid here, because I'm skipping all this in between crap. And yeah, matter of fact, why don't I do that? Switch to an 8th note grid. And then we're at the faster part, so probably time to switch back to the 16th notes, huh? Oh my goodness, I love Further Seems Forever. I did not know that other people even knew of their existence. Now, I gotta say, I am an old school Further Seems Forever with Chris Carrabba fan. I didn't like the new stuff that's got Chris Carrabba in it, but the old stuff most definitely. That sounds dang good, so now I just got to get this part done. Which, this is going to be triplets, I think 8th note triplets. Yeah. But then it's not necessarily... Okay, that should work. Maybe they're 16ths? Yep, okay, 16ths will help me here. Getting the grid right is, I mean, everything still falls on grid to some extent, but figuring out what subdivision I need to help me better visualize is often a struggle. That doesn't seem right. What up, Davi? There we go. Davi will be streaming in the morning. Yeah, I need to get some more of that tea. I need to probably take a break and go make some more. Something ain't right there. Oh, my ears are stopped up now. Oh, I see what happened. This needs to be moved, I think. Nope. I think the metering is what has happened? Something just seems wrong there. Okay, I see what's happening. Had to turn on the metronome so I could figure this out. One, two. Right here is my problem. This needs to be moved back. This may take me a minute to figure out. I think that'll do it. Okay, there. One hit out of place. There we go. Okay, we're back on track now. Sorry about that. I need to... Oh, that's weird. I can't see my... Seems like my colors changed again. Did I not have those as white earlier for the timeline, I think it was? Oh, I think because I didn't save the tweak configuration and I started messing around showing other themes earlier, it reverted back to the original, which is fine. At least we know we can do that on a temporary basis. And now I can see my grid a lot better. Puts my fingers in with that sounds so weird. Oh, breakfast tacos. I need you to send some of that over the internet somehow. Okay, so this right here should be on the 1. Now I can see. Let's just slide all that back. I think. This is the one negative of working in weird time signatures, or I wouldn't say weird, but... Because there's nothing weird about 3/4, but when you mix all these different time sigs together, it gets kind of confusing. If I'm honest right now, I'm guessing at half of these. Okay, that's why I keep going back and checking, because I want to make sure that I made the right choice before making too much of a mess. Alright, let's check that. getting kind of lucky with these guesses. You'd think that with these repeating patterns I would have this down to a science by now, but I'm second guessing every step because of the time sig at the moment, and my subdivisions are probably wrong. Good Lord, my ears are so stopped up right now. It's dang cold. We're so close. Okay, we're at the end of this section. I think I can switch to straight 16ths here, because we switched back to 4/4 time. Oh, and I missed fixing that snare. And I missed fixing that kick. Oh, that needs to go back the other direction. Oh, grid shift. This is another one that may take me a minute to figure out because of the time signature change. I think that was right. Okay, so let me just make sure these hits are on grid, and then we've got this last chorus and outro, and we're good. And I'm not sure that I'm doing this right either. Okay, that seems like that is the right subdivision. Sounds like straight 16ths to me, but yeah, I think that the same. I have to go back. It really depends on the section. Like there's some parts that I know are standard fare, just straight 4/4, but the section that we were just in, it's got a, well, just like in the first part of the song, it's got some several time signature changes, and I need to make sure that I'm not so focused on the grid here that, oh, we're into the last chorus, so I probably should go back and check. Let's hit this breakdown going into that section and make sure that it all feels good together. I'm not liking the. Oh, and it's okay. Mika, not sure how to say that, but I didn't take it as such. I guess I was just commenting back on it. I think that I misplaced some of the kicks in this section, so I want to go back and listen to that a bit more critically. Yep, definitely one right there that was out of place. Alright, let's get this last course knocked out. That should be on the upbeat of 1. That should be on 2. I think I just got off. That should get me back on track there. I think I just did stuff visually instead of listening to it because I didn't realize I was into the next section. So let me spot check that. Yep, there we go. Now we're back on track. The rest of this should be fairly easy to edit by eye and blow through pretty quick. I hear my firstborn. Good morning, Sarah. She doesn't hear me. Yeah, I have to agree. Because there's a saying about polishing a turd, and Eddie is a dang good drummer, but I just like to go through and try to tighten things up just a bit, particularly in something like this where it's critical that parts gel just right. And when we're playing this all live together, it's different, but when we're recording individually, you kind of just have to go back. It's like when you're playing live, you vibe off of each other, and a lot of things just naturally hit tighter, so to speak. And I know that there's things like Pro Tools has Beat Detective, and there's all sorts of scripts and things that'll go through and automate a lot of this stuff for you. But hey, Jason, good morning. Jason is the bass player of the group. Man, if Eddie was on here, we'd just have the whole gang. But I think Eddie's at work. It's not like he can't work on engines while watching YouTube, though. We are almost done, fellas. Let's see, we got some tom hits there. Okay, just a simple tom hit right on the beat. And like this here, this is kind of one example. These two toms were not hit at the exact time. I'm not going to line them up because they sound fine as a separated hit. I mean, to me, it actually adds a bit more impact to that particular hit. And that's how it was played, which I know that statement almost defies the fact that I'm making modifications now, but it's different purposes for those modifications. Not sure which one. Wait, what is this? That should be... I have to make a couple of separated hits here. gotta say again, I love my ride bell. I feel now like I'm trying to rush through this just so I can go back and hear the song in its entirety and hear the vocals in my head that you guys can't hear. Two of you can. Exactly, especially when it gets to billing people for things. That, just for example, like if someone wants you to track and mix and fully produce a song for them, and they're wanting you to bill them like you're on Fiverr and we'll do it for $20, but they don't understand how much work really goes into it. And the same is true with doing video production. Let's review this up into this break and make sure that we're in good shape. Okay, so that is good. I just need to shift this over. Make sure we're coming back in at the right time. I don't know. Drum editing to me is therapeutic. I just really enjoy doing it. Now it is terrible doing it if the drummer is not anywhere near a good drummer. That can be maddening, and I've had some sessions where I just requested them retake the session. Cathedral sound, this is going to sound like a sales pitch, and my apologies if it does sound like one, but I would really advise you to check out my drum editing and Reaper course, assuming that you're looking at using Reaper for your drum editing. The best that I can give you at the moment is look at your tracks, like take all of your drum tracks. Before you get started with any actual editing, make sure that your overheads are in line pretty good, and make sure that your room tracks are in line. And what I mean by that is make sure that, let's take a look at your overheads and make sure that the snare transients line up, and then take a look at your room mics, assuming they use stereo room mics, and make sure that your snare transients line up. Now, the room transients don't have to line up with the snare direct mic and with the overheads, because if you think about this from the perspective of physics, the room mics are nowhere near the drums, so the possibility of the concept of the snare hitting those mics across the room at the exact same time as the overheads or the snare direct mic is impossible. So it makes sense for the room mics to be offset a bit, but you want to make sure that the room mics are okay with each other lest they cause phase issues. Once you've got everything lined up the way that you believe that they need to be at the track level, then highlight each of your drum tracks and group them like this. You'll want to group them as media/Razor Edit lead and media/Razor Edit follow. Then if you check your grouping, sorry, that's grid lines. If you right click your grouping icon, make sure to turn on this enable item grouping and track media/Razor Edit grouping. And that's what's facilitating this, what I'm doing here, where when I cut one item, it cuts all of them. And when I slip edit one item, it slip edits all of them. So once you get everything lined up at the base level, because your mic placement is never going to be 100% perfect. Thanks, Batman. I do appreciate tacos, and today that's the cold medicine fund. But yeah, once you get everything lined up at the base level, you want to make sure that any edits like what I'm doing now are done across all of the drums at the same time. So that's why I've got my grouping turned on. Now I do have some shortcuts that I'm using to facilitate this, but even without those things, which those are custom actions that I show in my drum editing course, and if you dig through the archive, there's several videos where I'll show the same stuff for free, just in bits and pieces. But that's essentially it, is just making sure that you do everything to all the tracks at the same time. Now, there are some rare use cases where you'll need to separate things, but you have to kind of choose those battles very sparingly. Just for example, if you wanted to replace one of your snare hits with a different one, you may ungroup things and copy a snare hit from further down the line, but then you have to consider, do I also want to bring in the overheads from that section? So, like I said, there's some cases where you may want to do things at an individual level instead. Oh Lord, the Burger King tacos. Where you may want to do things at an individual level across, as opposed to the group, but you really got to think those through because they can cause some problems. You have to consider that everything that you do when you're playing drums and you're miking drums, as a general rule, you can expect it to be captured by all the mics. So you have to consider that what you're doing to one does affect everything. I want to go back and review this real quick because I wasn't paying attention again. These hits are off ever so slightly, and it's making my ears hurt just a touch. It may be the guitar's coming in slightly off. Also, this pause right here was manufactured. We didn't actually play it that way, so... Okay, there. I think we're good. I think that flam threw me a little bit, and I wasn't sure what to do there. And I think I like that a little bit early. But I want to make sure that this tom hit is pretty good. We're about to the outro, I think. I wonder how long it would take me to do this if I were not live streaming and somewhat narrating. I don't know. I like streaming when I do this for whatever reason. So I don't really know how long it would take me if I wasn't streaming. Happy Saturday indeed. What the heck is going on here? Oh, that's triplet fill at the end, so I need to switch my grid so I can see what I'm looking at. See what I'm looking at, you know what I mean. So I can better understand what I'm looking at. And then we are into the outro. Switch back to my straight grid. I think I can do eighth notes there just fine. And my apologies if I sound like I'm selling something. I'm really not. I am, but there's a ton of information in that course. And now, fair warning, when if you do end up getting the course, when you first get it, it's going to be Reaper 6 centric. Let me go to my own channel here for a second. I did an addendum to the course, and let's see, where's playlist? And let me see, what did I do? I'm trying to think here. Course. Yeah, 6 months ago I did this other video here that which if you end up buying the course, that it should get you a link to this anyway, but I'll go ahead and post this into the chat. It may give you enough information to be able to figure this out by piecing together a handful of my other videos, but this shows the changes that I've made since Reaper 7 came out, because some of the actions that I show initially in the course are no longer exposed in the same manner. That'll make more sense once you dig into it. You can do everything that I'm doing without any special actions. You can do it just by using the letter S, which is the default key for splitting, and then holding Alt and left-clicking and dragging on the bottom of the media item to slip at it. but I've got some custom actions that make it to where I can just left click and it'll make a split where I left clicked, and it'll put a crossfade automatically to the left side of it. And then the action also changes my mouse modifiers to automatically slip edit if I mouse over the lower left part of the, not lower left, the lower part of the media item. Sell. I just don't like being that guy. I mean, I get it. We all have to eat, which is why I talk about it on occasion. But I didn't start the channel with the intention of making money off of it. I mean, I started it because it was COVID time and I just didn't have anything to do, and had no idea that people would actually like the stuff that I'm doing. So my main intention is to be educational and to help better build a community. So if I can make a few dollars to afford cough medicine on the way, then I am all for that too. But I don't ever want to be one of those guys that sits here and tries to sell the next plugins that everybody else is selling and things of that nature. But you're more than welcome to go and buy the last Midlife Riot track, or you don't even have to buy it, you can stream it wherever you get your digital music. Don't know what's going on there, so I probably should listen to it. I see he used my stack there. That is right. Community needs cash to buy tacos. We got just a few more measures to go and we're done. I think just this particular song with some of the oddities that I came across, I think that I probably could have done this in maybe 45 minutes to an hour if I just sat here and did it without showing stuff on YouTube or, talking. Which that's, it seems like it's a long time for what's ultimately a 3-minute song. But it really helps to tighten things up, and I feel that doing it in this manner still preserves the humanness of it. Like, you can still tell this is Eddie playing. Alright, so we are done with our edit. Let me condense this, go back to the beginning, and let's take a listen from front to back. And what I'm doing now is I'm kind of just vibing and checking out the song, but at the same time I want to have a bit more of a critical ear and see if I hear any glitches or anything that's badly out of place. I'm going to turn down my speaking mic so that I can turn up my speakers and the sidechain compression that I've got on the music, not mess with things, so we can all enjoy this in one shot. So let's take a listen. Alright, I heard a few spots in there that will need some attention. There was an anomaly in the what I've marked as the chorus, and then in this ending, I think I heard something, so let's go ahead and hit this one first and see if I can figure out what that problem is. Right there. Okay, that seems to have got that. Actually, let me take a look and find that kick. Get that right up on it and test that. And I may even, let me try something here. This is either going to work or it won't, as the saying goes. If I can get my mouse to cooperate with me. Yeah, I think I like that. Alright, and see if I can find that spot that I was hearing in this section. I think it's here around this flam. Maybe just move that crossfade up a bit closer. It sounds like I'm probably hearing some cymbals that were in this take that were not in the previous take that I'm coming away from. So yeah, I feel like that fixed it there. Alright, let's try one more thing here, and I want to listen even more critically for any glitches or anomalies, so I'm going to solo the drums and listen for anything that really stands out. Now, I'm aware that nothing more stands out in context, but I still want to see if there's any little things that I can clean up because somebody else may hear them. Thank you very much. Appreciate that greatly. Oh, let me back up because that probably made the drums go quiet on you guys. Sorry, I forgot about that compressor. I'm gonna be quiet for a second. just heard a kick hit that bothered me. And that was a part that I did have some trouble with visually. So let me go back and spot check it. Right there. That should be moved over, which means something else is probably offset now. Nope. Oh wait, my grid's wrong. We're gonna figure this out. Oh, these triplets are killing me. One and two, and that seems like that should be in. I'm sitting here counting on my fingers now to figure this out. Let me turn my metronome on. Try moving this over. The struggle is real. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to have to hear that part in context again. Yeah, as far as the left channel dominant, as far as the crashes, that's because that's the side that he was playing on. So, I mean, he tends to well, it's actually his right side. I've got it switched to audience perspective, but he favors the right side crash, and that's also the side that the ride is on. So it's naturally going to sound like that because that's where it is. I get what you're saying though, but I guess I tend to mix more thinking about it in terms of real life. As far as the guitars, they're probably just out of balance because of my ears right now, but the drums, that makes total sense. Oh, interesting. I have caused a problem. Look at that. Let's fix this. I don't know how that happened. That is weird. How is that not grouped? Well, here's what we're going to do here. I'm going to break this. I'm going to delete that, paint all this out, and go back and fix this section. That may be why that is all messed up anyway. I got to figure out where this all goes, so... Alright, let me go back to listening to this in solo and see if I can figure out where other things may be messed up here. Something is not right here and I cannot put my finger on it. That is really bugging me. And I'm starting to think it's because these should not be triplets. What the heck is going on here? Huh. It seems like a 16th note triplet grid is what I need to fix this part. And I hope it's just that one little bitty section. Got a glitch right around there. Now I don't hear it. I know I heard something there. It sounds like somewhere a crossfade needs to be shifted. Right there. But I don't actually see any data in that crossfade, so what am I? Just slide it back and see if I hear it again. It sounds like there's something weird happening with the ride. And I don't know if you guys are hearing it. It's in this section. I got it. I think that may have taken care of all of my concerns. I know that was a bit tedious right there for a second, but I think that I got way off on the grid on one section and caused some problems that I manufactured myself. Let's give this one more pass with the music and make sure everything feels good. And if you got any more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat while we're listening through. started talking and had my mic muted. Well, there we have got it, the preliminary version of When Are We Leaving? So I think all that is that's left really is just for me to get over this cold so I can deliver these vocals and get those mixed in. I'm planning to have a handful of guests come in for vocals from some local artists around here just to help to contribute to the whole crowd atmosphere, particularly on the well, I realize you can't hear the vocals, but when I'm saying when are we leaving in this first section, I want to have a lot of people saying that. And I just think it'll help to really contribute to the whole vibe. I like having these crowd sound effects during the quieter parts and everything as well. And I gotta go to the bathroom, so I guess it's about time to wrap this up. Thank you guys and girls for hanging out. If you got any more questions, feel free to drop them in. Well, I guess don't drop them in the comments since I'm about to have to hop off. But if you are not a member of the Discord community, let me hop this over here and grab an invitation to send you guys. Set this to never expire. I want to invite all of you to hop on our Discord server. It is a happy little community. I can see they've been quiet since we started streaming, but we've currently got almost 3,500 members there, and it's very helpful. You can see we've got our general chat here, which is generally, well, it is generally general, us just BSing in the mornings and having coffee talk, as we call it. We've got a section for you to introduce yourself, always with the funny stuff. This is one that I posted the other day that I thought was pretty funny. You can post music you like. There are sections to shamelessly promote yourself, and plenty of places for help in different categories, or just to be able to hang out with people that like the same stuff that you do. So thanks again for hanging out. Davi, who is there in the chat now, be sure to check his channel. He streams every Sunday. Or I guess it's Sunday for you there since you're on the other side of the world. I don't know. He streams in the morning and does a lot of cool stuff, making beats and doing stuff with MIDI that I don't understand, but I like listening. There is Synchrotron, or Andy as we call him, who streams on Saturdays. He has already streamed this morning. Let me just post a few people's channels before I go. Let's see. I always have a hard time finding yours because I have to spell out the hug monster in long form. So there is Davi's channel. And if I look for Synchrotron, there's too many of them. So let me find the right one. Are there really that many? Let me look up drone, that'll probably find it. Nope, I'm just gonna find it back here in the chat session. Where is his? Let's see. Somebody able to pop a link in Discord for me for Andy's channel? I think I may be subscribed to it, but I am not sure, unfortunately. Maybe I'm spelling it wrong. That looks right to me, but then again, one of us has dyslexia. But there's probably so many people that share that name or so many different things. Let me check Discord again. Switched it off before it popped off the stream. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Excellent. Appreciate that, Jason. Let me pop it in here real quick. Did I spell it wrong? I don't know why I couldn't find that. But he does a lot of really cool electronic type stuff and mixes guitar in with it as well. And he tends to live stream most days. Well, not most days, but most Saturdays. And you can see he goes for a couple of hours doing a lot of cool stuff with synthesizers. And he's got both physical synthesizers and software synthesizers. It's kind of cool watching all the cable plugging and whatnot. Let's see, we've got another member of our Discord community, Wanchus, who runs... he does a Spanish channel, but he recently started this English-speaking channel called Sounds Human, and he drops a lot of pretty good science in there. Of course, you guys are all familiar with Alejandro, I'm assuming. So we have got Alejandro's channel, who has made the Reaper Tips theme that many of you probably have used. Of course, there is John from Reaper Blog, who does not know him. John is actually who taught me how to edit drums initially. Who else do we have that streams? I don't know that we've got any others that do regular streaming, but definitely check out those channels that I posted in the chat there. Let me give another shameless plug for myself real quick, if I can find me here. I think I'm in here for pretty cheap now, like 30 bucks. Wait, let's see. Drum. How far we fallen? Let me just look under Mentors. I can find myself in there pretty easily. There I am. Poof. Yeah, $37. So if you're interested in the Pro Mix Academy drum editing course, I have dropped that in the chat as well. Or at least I think I have. There we go. Yeah, I'm cheap. I thought that they were going to do that as an introductory price, but that's where it's set since its inception, but it's whatever. I'm cool with it. And let's see, is there anything else we need to show before we go? Of course, everybody knows about Kenny. There was Learning Reaper. He's not quite as active in our Discord as of late, because he's got several of his own, but he's definitely got a great channel if you're into MIDI and beat making and things of that nature, and he live streams pretty frequently. That's about all I can think of. If I'm missing anybody, just, I'm sorry. But thanks again for hanging out. I gotta go potty. We'll see you next time.